So everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope you can all hear me okay. Thank you for joining us here at Drone Harmony from all over the world. It's great to have so many people joining us from so many different places. This is our first webinar in a while. It's the 21st of May, 2024. And honestly, guys, I am so excited to bring this webinar to you. I've been doing webinars in the drone world for around 5 years now, and I've done about 25 in total. And this webinar is one I am most excited about. This is going to be really fun. There's been a lot of huge changes in the drone world over the last few months, and we're enabling some radical ones with Drone Harmony. So I'm really excited to show you this. My name is Alexander Craig. I'm a global marketing manager here at Drone Harmony. As I said, I've been in the drone industry for about 5 years, and I'm very excited to bring you this webinar. Adam and David, are you there? Are you with us? Could you introduce yourself, please? Adam, would you like to start?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Hi, I'm Adam Sashuk. I head up Drone Harmony's expansion into the United States and Canada. I come from 25 years of operational experience. So this is a really exciting change for me, moving into software as a service and helping all of our customers expand their operations. So thanks for joining.
Good stuff. And David?
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Adam. So I'm David Ajeshvili. I'm CTO, one of the founders of Drone Harmony. Been with the company from the early days in 2015, 2016, when the commercial drone market was just starting, and I'm excited to be here and to co-present our new solutions.
Sweet. Thanks, guys. It's great to have you guys here with us. A bit of housekeeping before we get stuck into the fun stuff. This is a very exciting webinar, and it's going to be interactive. So we know you guys out there as an audience are going to have lots of questions throughout. Please don't be afraid to ask your questions. Please do so. So there's a Q&A tab in your Zoom toolbar that you should be able to find. If you access this tab, you can ask questions manually at any point during the webinar. We will try to answer them as we go, but there'll definitely be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar as well, where we'll answer as many questions as we can. So again, please don't hesitate to ask your questions when they come to you. Any questions at all are accepted. This webinar is also recorded on our side. This means that we will send this recording to you once the webinar is finished, probably tomorrow. So there's no need for you to record it on your side or anything. Don't worry about that. The only thing you guys need to do is sit down, make some notes, pay attention, and enjoy the show. So many of you joining us are already very familiar with Drone Harmony, but there's some of you who aren't. So just to bring you up to speed, I'm just going to introduce ourselves quickly as a company. So Drone Harmony, who are we? We were founded in 2016 in Zurich, in Switzerland. That's relevant because Zurich is seen internationally as being it's quite a hub for engineering. There's a very, very prestigious university here called ETH, which is one of the top 5 engineering universities on the planet. As a consequence, there are many, many big tech firms located in Zurich, for example, Google, Facebook, Sony, and we tap into that intellectual web here at Drone Harmony. What we do is we create a 3D flight management platform that allows you to unlock the full potential of your drone operations. So when you get a drone off the shelf, we believe, and we can demonstrate that the software that you're using for that does not enable you to get the most out of it. And all of the features that we've developed over the years allow you to do so. And we're going to show you how to do that in a few moments. As a consequence of all this, we have over 1 million automated flights logged on our system. This really is essentially a testament to the resilience of our platform and how comprehensive it is with giving our users the features that they need. We empower all sorts of industries as a software platform. Some of the larger ones that we do are utilities all over the world, things like electrical transmission line scanning. We can cover large scale and complex mission planning and also asset inspection. Asset inspection, as some of you will know, is a very delicate thing to do. These are very sensitive sites, which is why you require a robust platform like Drone Harmony to map them with. Of course, there are many other industries that we cater to as well, such as solar power inspection construction, mining, public safety, and security inspections. Now, we haven't gotten to this place all on our own. There are many partners which we use to get here. Technical partners and commercial partners. For example, we have DJI, Phase 1, Sony. These guys we work very closely alongside with to make sure our product is up to standard with all the latest features and hardware out there. And we have commercial partners all over the world. And this, the list of commercial partners is growing by the week. Many, many, many growing in the US, Europe, and the rest of the world as well. So today, the hardware that we're going to show you is the DJI Dock. Now, as I said at the start of this webinar, there's been a lot of excitement over the last few months about the DJI Dock. I'm not going to tell you any more about it that you've already heard. The DJI Dock is, as a piece of hardware, changing the drone industry with software platforms like Drone Harmony. I mean, the drone industry has been going for around 10, 15 years now. Finally, we have a platform that allows you to have full remote work control of your operations. This is a dock where you can activate and perform your missions 24/7 remotely using platforms like Drone Harmony. It's fully weatherproof, meaning it's got an IP55 rating. It can withstand heavy storms and wind, which means that it can be out all the time and you don't need to worry about it. It's got high-speed charging, which means that once the drone is back from a full flight, I believe it will, at least the Dock 2 can fully charge the drone in around 30 to 50 minutes. And it's got its own surveillance and security mechanisms on board. But as I said, I'm sure you've all heard all about the Dock, so I'm not going to bore you with any more chat about that. So here's the fun stuff that we're going to get into, the thing you're all here for, today's mission. So this is an international mission. We've got Adam sat in the United States, the great United States of America. Hopefully he's had his first coffee by now. And we've got David over here in Europe with all of our docks. So to take a closer look at those guys, we've got Adam all the way over there in the US. David is situated in Zurich in Switzerland, where we do have another dock with us. So there's a dock in Luzern, which is about 50 miles from Zurich, in kilometers about 75, I believe, maybe a bit more. We also have another dock down here in Croatia and another dock in Finland. Now, these docks, what's important about the geographical nature of this is that we want to demonstrate to you how we can access, plan missions and perform missions on all of these docks from the same location on the same account. So it's going to be David who's the one who's planning these missions and performing them, and Adam's going to be talking about it with us. To take a look at these sites at a bit of a closer glance. So in Luzern in Switzerland, we've got a DJI Dock 2 with a Matrice 3TD. This has a max flight time of around 45 minutes, this drone. It's got a 48 megapixel wide angle camera, 12 megapixel telephoto camera, and an infrared camera, which is 12 megapixels installed. So when you're flying, you can perform live infrared inspections of your sites. We also have something similar in Croatia, although we don't have the infrared camera installed. And in Finland, we have a DJI Dock 1. So this is the DJI Dock that was released prior to the DJI Dock 2. And this is good to show you because Drone Harmony is not just a dock platform or a Dock 2 platform. We can operate with multiple drones and multiple different types of docks from the same account. And you can do that here. So over to the live demo. I'll stop sharing my screen. And Adam, would you like to share your screen and take us away and show us this platform?
Oh, can do. Okay, so I think we've got our world up. So what I'm going to be showing today is a little bit about the fundamentals of planning and the technology that Drone Harmony has for enabling a virtual world to make sure that your missions are exactly what you need them to do. I think we are well past flying drones for fun. We now fly them for reasons, and we need to achieve something. And we've really focused on giving customers the ability to be able to plan now with a high level of confidence that the exact deliverables that they need will be delivered. So I will zoom in on our Croatia site here, where we come in here and we see a few different things. I will close down some of these missions and talk about the basics of what planning is. So fundamentally, we have our 2D world, which exists on kind of the Google map. It's the same what everyone has in the ability. In Drone Harmony, we wanted to go one step further. We were the pioneers of 3D flight planning. So we brought in the virtual world, which starts to leverage the technology, which is becoming cheaper and cheaper to achieve, of point clouds and orthomosaics and meshes. So here we have a point cloud of our facility, and Drone Harmony has the ability to create objects in this point cloud. So we interact directly in this environment. It's all geospatially accurate. And when we have the dock installed and turned on, we know exactly where it is. So we have our RTK fixed point of reference. So the accuracy is all built off equipment that is it's removing the guesswork around where your drone's going to be. So unfortunately, in this particular scenario today, the dock is not turned on because we have a bit of a torrential storm going through the area, but it won't stop me from being able to show you a planned mission on how you would do this in a virtual environment. I'm quite a long way away from Croatia, but I can operate in this environment like I'm sitting there. So the first thing that I'll do is create a perimeter mission for this orange building that is there. So what we have done is created a box around that, and we use tools where we create the points of the building. And as we go through and create those points, it will draw a shape, and we give it 3D heights. So I will close that, and now plan a perimeter mission. So we have in our plan catalog, we have lots of different things: linear missions, shapes, mapping missions, inspection missions. And in this case, I'm going to use a perimeter mission. So I'll pick my orange building. These are all customizable. You're able to name these in your own naming conventions. So we don't really lock anyone down to a Drone Harmony naming convention. We give you the flexibility to use your own. I'll select that building. Normally, if I had the drone connected, it would know where the drone's going to launch. So I know our drone is normally installed over here. So I will just use that as my launch location. And you can now see the algorithms jump into play very quickly, creating a flight mission based on parameters. So I've told it what I'm interested in, and now within 1 second is a flight mission that shows exactly what we're doing. You can see that the camera is automatically angled. Everything is done through algorithms. So what we have when we have this type of philosophy here, if I drop this down to, let's say, for example, 15 meters, which is probably a little bit low, but let's see what happens. We can see that we are avoiding objects here. So hopefully this is coming through on the screen too much. Okay. You can see what Drone Harmony's done there, in that it's actually avoided that tower obstacle automatically because we had that drawn. And now I can have that mission with the confidence knowing that the drone knows what to avoid. And I can review this in 3D. And it's adjusted my visual angle so I can see the structure, and I have the ability. So we'll go back up to a safer height because I think that's maybe a little bit too low. And we might go out a little bit further just to have a slightly better view. So really what we're having the ability to do is to preview our flight in the virtual world to make sure that we are getting exactly what we need from this mission. If this is just a normal surveillance mission, when I launch this, I would just use live feed or video. If it's an inspection mission, I'd be taking images. If I need to change the overlap of the images, we have the ability to do that, and it automatically changes in real time. If there's a part of the building that I don't want to inspect, I can modify through that. In this case, I want to do all of it. We can pick the camera that we're actually using. Because I haven't got the dock turned on, we're reverting back to being able to select this. Normally the dock determines which camera and drone we use. And then we can come in here and start setting launch parameters which is our flight speed, what I want the drone to do. Do I want it to stop at each waypoint, stop, record video? Which sensors do I want to record? So if I don't want to turn on infrared, and what happens at the end of the mission, and so on and so forth. So in that instance there, I will save that mission and we'll call this perimeter test flight. And this is essentially naming, you give it a naming convention based on what is going to be memorable, how your operational team will know what mission that is. So I will save that. And that mission now sits inside our flights, and you can see the perimeter test flight that I just did. The reason why I love this is because it's got a little love heart. It shows how much we love what we're doing there. So that's one of the missions. Over here, we have another mission, which is just a simulated area of interest. We might just do a mapping mission of that area. Again, we will launch from over in the area where the drone is normally installed. And I'll come down to 25 meters just to make it a little bit more interesting. And it's integrating, it's creating all of these missions. So again, you have the overlap controls, the camera controls. We can change the pitch and we can schedule the launches for those perspectives there. So the last mission that I really want to show you before we get into some live demos is how our point cloud actually creates a terrain model. So we have all this great 3D information that comes from, near survey grade 3D point clouds. And Drone Harmony, when it automatically processes this data, you load the LAZ or the LAS point cloud in through our point cloud engine. It will actually create a terrain model in very, very high resolution, showing us where these things are light poles. So it's actually creating terrain avoidance obstacles of light poles. We can see there's a transmission power line corridor that runs down there. There's a distribution corridor that jumps off there. So you can see that it's actually created an obstacle world of where all the things are. So when I jump back into the point cloud view, sorry, it's just taking a little bit to load. I'm going to create a linear mission, and I'm just going to draw it along the point cloud. I'll go back up here. I'll go straight through the building, and we'll finish over here. Make it red so it stands out. Okay, so that's the mission that I'm interested in. I want the drone to fly along that pathway. It might be a road, it might be a perimeter of a building, and I just want to do a terrain. So I'm now going to use my terrain data, and I want to do a linear path. So I'm going to launch from over here because it just makes it a bit easier. Normally you would launch from where your drone is installed. And I want to land over there. And I will go back into here, turn my perimeter mission off, turn my top-down mission off. And I am going to have it a little bit higher. Let's drop it down to, say, 50 meters. And you can see that the flight path here, as we're planning it, it's using the terrain model to adjust the obstacles. So it's flying over the top of the buildings, even down here where the transmission corridor goes. You can see that it's actually increasing altitude a little bit just to make sure there's enough space operating it. And what this does, it gives the pilot and the planner the confidence that when you plan a mission, the drone knows the real world as you're flying this. This is an interesting one. There's a light pole directly underneath this. So it's just making sure that it flies above the light pole and it's following the terrain that we do there. So if I save that mission, you'll see how it has quite an odd shape rather than just the straight line. And all of this is referenced back into here, and you can start adjusting waypoints as you please from that perspective. So they're the different types of missions that we can do. All of these missions get saved. They're controlled by a site that sits in an enterprise account. And then they're executed when you've actually got the drone installed. They get executed based on a predetermined schedule or on an as-needed basis. And we'll show all the different functionality of the drone control operations as we step through this. So, Alex, I think that's probably the basics of planning that I wanted to show. And I think everyone's here to actually see the drone operate and start flying around some of our test locations.
That's really neat, Adam. Thank you for that. I've actually got a bunch of questions myself that I want to ask, but I don't want to hold the audience back from seeing a drone flying any longer. So,
sure.
David, do you want to take over? Adam, did you stop sharing your screen? David,
certainly,
take over and share yours. So, as Adam said, the weather is very, very bad in Croatia today, which is part of the risk you run when you try and do an experimental webinar. But that's okay because we've got drones docked in Lucerne and in Finland as well. So we're going to be able to show you one of those. David, do you want to share your screen, please?
Yes, with pleasure. I'm gonna pop it up right now. Just give me one quick second.
No problem.
Should come up now. Is this coming through?
Yeah, we can see the map of Europe.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, let's do some flights, some concrete flights. So here is the little site where Adam was showing some of our flight planning capabilities just now. And as was mentioned, the weather there in all of Croatia is not ideal. So we will actually be flying into other sites, one being in Finland, and the other one in Switzerland, in our, let's say, home base. We'll start with the dock in Finland. So let me switch over to that site. So by now we've seen a little bit of how the Drone Harmony interface looks like. We know that in a dock case, we usually have both 2D information as well as 3D information about our site. So just to introduce you a little bit about to this specific site. So this specific site is in Finland, and this is where we're gonna do some of our fun flight drone dock flying. So I will actually start with planning a new mission, just that we see the whole workflow in this site from the beginning till the end. So just as Adam did before, I'll pick one of the buildings, for example, this blue building, and I'll just plan a quick perimeter mission for it. So the same workflow, I go to the plus here, I'll pick inspection as a category of missions, and then perimeter. I'll pick this main building as the subject of my inspection and continue. So here, immediately we get a suggestion for an inspection for this building. You will see how the takeoff location has already been identified, and the reason is that this is a dock site. So we have actually a connected DJI Dock here, and the takeoff location is being identified as the location of that specific dock. On the left, we can adjust parameters, flight altitude, distance to the structure. I actually like the current settings, otherwise I would be able to adjust them. I'll just save this mission right now and call it perimeter.
So that's all fully automated, isn't it? That mission plan that wasn't done in advance. That's as soon as you've hit select, that's coming automatically, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. So I've actually cleaned up the site before just to be able to kind of do everything from scratch. And yeah, if I would adjust anything about the building, it would create the mission according to that new shape of the building or that new shape of the 3D virtual world that we're looking at. So now that we have the mission, let's fly it. So this is the first time we'll start seeing some dock related elements. So there's several ways of launching a mission in Drone Harmony. I'll show you at least a couple. So one thing we can do is we can go here to devices and just open open the specific device we want to launch a mission from. And you can see this little panel here appears on the top left. We can move it around to anywhere in the screen where we want it to be, but this is actually a good position for me right now. What you will see is immediately you'll see access to FPV view. So at the moment, we'll look at the dock FPV, and we see a little bit of telemetry here on the top. So this is actually the drone telemetry. The drone is currently off. So before speaking too much longer about telemetry and all of these things, I can speak about it while the drone is preparing to launch the mission. So I'll just jump straight into launching this perimeter mission that we've just planned. So one way to do this is to press on launch mission for the specific dock. And in this case, I have one mission on the site, so we jump straight into the launch parameters. Otherwise, I'd have an option to pick what mission I want to launch. Maybe we'll see that later. So here, similar to how we could pre-plan parameters for missions, here I can look at whatever was pre-planned for this mission and also adjust whatever I want. So for example, mission speed is an important parameter, return to home altitude is an important parameter, as well as what we're actually capturing. So if all of the important parameters are in here, for example, what also image data will be captured. In this case, let's keep all of these ticked, both wide as well as infrared and zoom. So if we're happy with the parameters, we go just to next. We pick the type of launch. So now I'll launch a mission immediately. So that's some kind of an ad hoc launch as quickly as possible. We could also schedule. So if I would go down here, I could schedule and choose between one of several options. So once, for example, I want to launch a mission tomorrow at 5 p.m. or something like that. Or I could schedule a daily or a weekly on a specific day. So a lot of flexibility, and we can of course have several schedules to create any type of drone flight schedule we want. But again, we want to do immediate right now. So next, I get a quick preview of the mission that I'm actually planning to launch. This is useful because on a Drone Harmony site, we very commonly have more than one mission. And we don't only want to rely on naming. Sometimes we also want a quick visual feedback that we're launching the mission we're actually intending to launch. So I'll just press on launch, and now the launching sequence should start. So while that's happening, what I'll do is I'll continue talking about the dock panel that we have within Drone Harmony. And you'll see that the dock is already opening. Now the drone will start, will turn on, and et cetera, et cetera. So to those of you who know a little bit about DJI Dock, they'll recognize that this is a Dock 1. We'll also launch a Dock 2 in a few minutes.
So just to confirm, David, this, because I find this absolutely mind-blowing. So you've planned this mission on the cloud in Switzerland, and now we're activating it in Finland. So when you've pressed launch, the data for this flight plan has been sent to this dock in Finland.
Yeah, you can say so. Yeah, it's exactly how it is. And there's really no kind of geographic boundaries here. We could have had Adam launch this mission. He could log into the same account. It really doesn't matter where you're doing it from. You can do everything from loading up the point cloud, creating the objects of interest, planning the missions, launching the missions, viewing the data, everything right here. You don't have to do anything locally. So as we've spoken through this, we have now actually GPS lock. So essentially the drone is ready to launch, and it will launch now. And you see that the drone just took off. Now I have an option to switch views. So of course I don't want to be looking at the dock's FPV while the drone is flying. So I can switch here to the FPV view of the dock of the drone. And within FPV view, I have of course access to various payloads. So I can look at FPV, wide, zoom, or thermal for this specific flight. And pay attention that this is not really the data that's captured. The data that's captured has been pre-programmed to be, in this case, all of these payloads. It's just from which viewpoint I want to look at this data. So for example, if I switch to thermal, I'll be observing the flight through the thermal camera, as you can see. Or if I want zoom, I can switch to zoom, right? So let's go back to wide. and appreciate another fact that actually in this 3D world, we're seeing, let me scroll a little bit over here, we're actually seeing the actual position of the drone during the flight. So the drone is actually being presented to us where it's currently at in the virtual world, and that gives us enormous control over knowing where it actually is. But not only, we will in a moment also pause the drone and start moving it around manually during the mission or during the paused mission. And that's very valuable because instead of just guessing where we are looking at FPV view and map, we can also rely on this very powerful 3D visualization. So as I've been speaking through this, the drone has reached an interesting place. So let me just pause the mission here. So I paused the mission, and you see that, you know, the drone isn't moving anymore. It's hovering in space. And I have a few options at my disposal here. So let's first scroll over in 3D to where the drone actually is right now. So you'll see it's positioned here. Let me quickly arrive at that location conveniently like that. And now the mission is paused. I can, of course, return to home, resume, or for example, I could take manual control of the drone at this point. So let me do that. So I press on manual control, and here is where we can start combining the value of things like automated missions as well as kind of situational awareness or like ad hoc inspection type use cases. So I've now full control of the drone. I can, for example, move the drone with my keyboard or with some other external UI device. So you see how I'm just flying the drone left and right, back and forth, etc. So this is me controlling the drone from Switzerland. Now let's see why this can be valuable. So let's say there is this chimney here. Let's say I want to look at the top of the chimney. So I'm just clicking on the chimney on where I want to focus on. Let me switch here to the zoom camera. Let's say we noticed in FPV view that something is going wrong in this specific chimney. So I'm just interested in pausing the mission and quickly zooming in to see what's going on there. So all of this is possible. So I can very easily go all the way to that level of detail, right? I can zoom to that level and see what's going on. Now let's say, okay, everything is fine here. Let me zoom back out and look a little bit around and see if I find any other, you know, issues that I might want to focus on. So I scroll a little bit to the right and I click on another thing I noticed on the roof. Let's zoom on that thing real quick and see if there is an issue there that needs to be addressed, just like that. And okay, I'm happy with the way things are, and I'm maybe ready to resume the mission now. So let's switch back to wide, let's say, and press on resume. It asks me, are you sure you want to resume? Yes. And this is where it's really powerful. So I didn't really stop the previous mission. The data that I planned on collecting will be collected. Think about this is an inspection mission, but maybe there'll be also, maybe it could be a mapping mission or something like that, where it's very valuable to gather an entire data set. So me pausing the mission didn't interrupt. It interrupted just temporarily the flight. It didn't interrupt it permanently, so I can now continue and collect the rest of the data. So other cool...
Sorry, David. So that data, once you get back, will be organized in the folder as if there was no interruption anyway?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can pause here another time just to show you another type of such intervention that you might want to do. You might notice maybe in the FPV view or somewhere else in the 3D environment that you might want to inspect up close something from the top, let's say. You don't want to have a sideways view. So maybe you know where it is on the map. So you might want to switch to map view. And here in map view, you see actually the drone icon is also, of course, presented on the map. And you might want to fly somewhere where you notice something specific and you want to actually just bring the drone there. You don't want to create a mission for that. You don't want to fly there manually. So that's very easy to do as well. You just right click and do fly here. You might adjust a few important parameters, but for the most part, all you do is just tell the drone, okay, get there as quickly as you can or at a predetermined speed, and the drone the drone will actually execute that mission for you. So maybe at that specific location, there is something that we notice on the ground, and we just want to get there as quickly as possible so that we can just inspect what this thing is. So the drone will now arrive, and maybe here we will tilt gimbal all the way down and again, switch on to zoom and zoom all the way down because we want to inspect something here on the ground, something of this nature, okay? So just a few more things that I think are very noteworthy. So we've been looking at live feed all the time, and we looked at manual control and camera controls and things like this. There's, of course, a full telemetry of the drone available to us at a separate tab here, as well as tasks. Tasks are those missions that are either ongoing. So you see that now we have a perimeter mission that is an immediate launch, and it's currently paused. And in addition, we would have here all of the scheduled missions. So if we would have scheduled a mission for tomorrow, it would appear here as one of the rows in this category. And we have history as well of all of the executed missions with whatever status they had. They might have succeeded or failed. That could have been a weather issue, for example, and that's something we can afterwards review as well. This window can also be full screened in case we really only want to look at live feed and the mission should be fully automated, for example. So everything can be full screened here. That's not a problem. Okay, so let's go back to 3D view, the view where the most exciting information exists. And we'll just, again, have a look at where the drone currently is. It's right here above the point we asked it to fly to. And now I can resume the mission, or I can also return to home. So for example, if for whatever reason I decide I need to return to home, I just press on return to home and the drone will perform the RTH, okay? So that's another, of course, option that we always have. And as you can see, the drone will now go to the RTH altitude that was pre-programmed and will just fly across towards the dock site. And just for fun, as it reaches the dock site, we can just have a quick look at how amazing DJI drones can land into boxes, and just tilt the camera down as soon as it arrives. So that would be our interaction with the dock in Finland. And as we see this drone landing, I will switch gears towards the other dock that we would like to quickly launch, just to see how that would look like.
And of course, all those features that we've just seen there, those manual control features in flight, they're not completely necessary, right? I mean, a lot of users will just want to perform large missions of particular sites with it set, and they'll do those, and they can just sit down, have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and watch it go, right? They don't really need to take over like that. No, that's just the flexibility that you have. You can actually, we expect in most cases most of the missions to be automated, and you would be able to just review your data once the drone has landed. And it's also important to note, of course, the upload of the data happens as soon as the drone lands in the box. So you can expect between a few minutes to, let's say, an hour later, depending on how much data was actually gathered, to have access to the data through the interface. Nice. Do you want to, so we've got about 5 more minutes of demonstration, maybe. Do you want to jump to the site in Lucerne just to show the users, the attendees, the multi-dock functionality of the Drone Harmony system? Yeah, of course. So here we're now at a different site. You see that this is more of a residential area. There is a dock sitting on the roof of this specific house. And here I'll now open up the dock panel, and you'll see that I actually have a number of docks linked to this specific account. One of the docks is the one we planned most of our demo on today in Croatia, but as we've already discussed, weather did not permit. But it's no problem. We have enough other docks where we can perform those types of demos from. So what I'll do here is I'll quickly show you what it looks like when more than one dock
is more than one dock is connected. So one thing we saw is they just get listed in our panel. And as well as, and apart from that, they also get tabbed here when we open them. So this one, as we just discussed, is disconnected, but that's not a problem because we have our Dock 2 that is in Switzerland that we can quickly launch and have a beautiful view of the mountains in the Lucerne area. So that's a little bit of free tourism, virtual tourism for our webinar participants. So the way I'll do it here is I won't use a mission. I'll just use the takeoff feature, which just launches the drone and immediately allows me to manually control it.
So this is
So
more
I'll
like
just
a video game style, I guess. This is full manual.
exactly. So this is the launch sequence is automated, but after that, I kind of have manual control. So I will, if I wanted an automated mission, I'd have to plan a mission here and launch it. And this is kind of full manual control. Exactly. So as usual, there is a few minutes to wait for, or a few seconds in most cases, up to a minute or two to wait for the system to actually load and to launch the drone. So here you will see this is a Dock 2. Let's switch to FPV view from the dock. So it looks different to those of you who are unfamiliar. This dock is a bit smaller, more adapt for kind of mapping type use cases. And easier to install on kind of in smaller areas like something like a house like that. So you see the dock has appeared already, and I already see the GPS fix has been achieved. So the dock should launch, the drone should launch any minute now. Okay, we see propeller spinning. That's perfect. So it will launch now. Okay, I can switch to FPV view again. And as usual, you see how the drone is presented here in the 3D view. I know exactly where it is. And now what we're interested in doing is, yeah, just manually controlling the drone, maybe flying it a little bit left and right, and looking at some nice scenery, and just to appreciate how identical the interaction with the Dock 1 versus the Dock 2 is as well. So there's really no difference in the interface or in the way that we're interacting between the two systems. So it's really transparent. You can only really see it if you look at FPV view and you note what kind of box it is, what kind of drone is sitting inside. Otherwise, everything is practically identical.
And you are guiding this with your keyboard?
Yeah, I'm guiding this with my keyboard. Here's me flying a little bit to the right, and now I'll fly a little bit to the left and forward. So it's really me guiding this. And again, you probably recognize that this is a very beautiful area from just this view. Let me full screen this and maybe go to zoom and appreciate a beautiful boat on the Lucerne Lake. So again, this is pretty much the same as we've seen before, just kind of in another use case, you can say. So this is how easy it is for whether it's a Dock 1 or a Dock 2. All systems are integrated exactly the same way.
So this is really functional for those like immediate inspection use cases, right? Where you need to get up,
Correct.
take a quick look, and it's all manual.
Correct.
Nice.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think I won't take any more time right now. I think we've seen a few use cases. We've seen live flights. I'll just return to home, this specific dock as well. And yeah, I think back to you, Alex.
Yeah, thanks for that, David. It's I love this view when it's coming down from the bird's eye view onto the dock, and the dock opens up like it's very sci-fi. I love this. Yeah,
Indeed.
we have a raft of questions to get through. That's not to disincentivize anyone else from asking questions, of course, audience members. Please ask questions using the Q&A tab. We'll go into a Q&A now, but we already have a bunch that we'd like to get our teeth stuck into. So I'll start sharing my screen again very quickly. Great. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of questions that we can get stuck into here. I have my own question, if you don't mind, just very quickly. So Adam, I was wondering when you were making the flight plan with the building elements and it had the automatic like obstacle avoidance integrated, right? And it was going around that building. If as a user you're unsure of the true height of a building, can you change that height of the element and then it will automatically change the flight plan as well?
Yeah, so the way the object creation works is we control all of the parameters of the polygon, the height, the size, where the walls are, where the corners are. So essentially we can either trace it in a 3D point cloud, or we can just draw a shape on the 2D map and give it a height. And if that height is wrong, you can continually adjust that height until it represents the height of the building. So it's really designed to be flexible with point clouds, without point clouds, to be usable in any scenario.
Nice. Okay. Going over to you guys feel free to open up the Q&A tab and take a look at the questions. I'll just start us off with one I see here from this is just an anonymous attendee. So they have asked, can a mission be longer than one charge of battery of the drone? In brackets, come back, load and go on. So what I think they mean there is if a mission plan is longer than the full duration of a battery, what will happen? Will the drone come back, charge, and then go back to the mission, or?
Yeah, there's a few options of how that will do that. It can execute the mission, come back when the battery gets to a certain level, it'll land and charge, and then resume from the last point. Or in some of the advanced use cases where you need constant coverage, you can have dual docks, and you can launch the second drone to be able to execute the rest of that mission. So there are a few ways of managing coverage. Security use cases have a scenario where they don't want to land and charge while they've got an active security case happening. So a second drone is able to be launched out to a point of interest and continue that coverage. So yeah, we've tried to think of those scenarios.
Nice. Thanks for that. There's one more question that I see, which is very pertinent. There's one here from John that says, how does Drone Harmony mitigate the perceived security issues with DJI's systems? Might be, I don't know if it's a good one for you, David, or for Adam. I believe what John is referring to here is maybe the data security issues that are currently being spoken about in the industry.
Yeah, I'll give this one to you, David, and maybe we can talk about the different deployment options that we have with the Drone Harmony software.
Yeah, thanks. So Drone Harmony can be deployed in various ways. The simplest way is Drone Harmony server software can run in the Drone Harmony cloud. So the base option is Azure in the European Union, but we have also options of cloud providers in other geographies. So there's various cloud options, but then we also have options of on-premise versions of the software where we install basically everything, including the server part, on your computers, on your servers. And that can be a server that's completely disconnected from the internet, practically speaking. The dock doesn't need internet connection to work. It can function in a local network. And we've already had demos and deployments where we had fully offline deployments, as well as the server software running on a laptop, on something as small as a laptop that could be completely off grid. So there's various deployment options, and they vary from just public cloud, but public meaning, of course, you have unique access to your own data, but it is hosted on something like an Azure or an AWS, and all the way down to fully air-gapped, completely sealed settings where data can never get out of your local network.
Nice. Thanks for the answer there, David. Any questions that you guys see in the Q&A that you'd like to answer? There's still 21 open questions. I want you guys to pick the most pertinent ones if you see any that
Yeah, I have one. I think there's a couple about the data, how it lands in the system. So maybe that's something I kind of skipped in my demo. What I can quickly show is what happens, how is data actually organized in the end of flights.
Is it the one from Stin? I believe I might be mispronouncing that name, but Stin Seelan. Is it possible to download the high resolution data from the drone's
Yeah.
SD? Yeah.
That's one of the participants I've noticed asking about that. Absolutely. Yeah, so let me just quickly share one more minute my screen and I'll quickly show this, Alex, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. So I'll just share my screen again. There we go. So this is exactly the same site we've been doing most of our flying in. This is the dock site in Finland. And what you'll see is here we have a special layer within the software, kind of a tab that I can open with media. And media is images and videos that we've captured during all of the flights that were done by this specific dock system. So you see on the base level, it's sorted by date. So May 21st is today. So I can open that up. I see I have a total of 429 files available here, pictures, videos, etc. This is the mission that we just flew. So we can see that the images, the image icons, they start appearing here on the map. And as I hover over them, I see a little thumbnail. I can double click on the thumbnail and it will open up a full resolution version of it. So this is review of the data within the Drone Harmony system. I can download the data of any single mission, the data of any single day. It's all very easy to do. So it's a simple download, like a download from a website. It will download a zip folder on your account. But beyond that, we also have options to integrate with other software platforms. And this is where these things really get exciting, where we can essentially send the data downstream to some software that, for example, processes the data, inspects the data, or uses the data in some meaningful way for a specific use case. Within here, I can also do kind of various different things, like zoom in on different parts of the image in case I need to look at a bit more resolution. Just quickly, let's look at a thermal image. That's how a thermal image would look like from this specific angle. We can see the same data overlaid also in the 3D view. So it's available in both map and 3D view as kind of a layer that appears on top of the virtual site. So this is just a quick demonstration on how the data is then organized. And again, this is available here forever until we decide to delete it. So it's not that we need to view it today. We can view it tomorrow or whenever we have time. So this is all managed and archived until the user chooses to do something with the data.
And this data, and those for those people who are performing like 3D photogrammetry missions, this data is the EXIF files of this data is already like geotagged, so it can be put into photogrammetry platforms that can stitch it together automatically, right?
Absolutely. I can even show you how you can see the EXIF data here within. So let me just look, for example, at the wide camera only, just because EXIF will primarily be useful for things like photogrammetry wide cameras. So I can open like full EXIF data metadata information here for this image, see its location, even things like file size, etc. So this is all stored. And of course, when we download the images, they're enriched with this data, so ready to process in any meaningful way for aerial data.
And David, I think this is a good opportunity to talk about like the integrations with some of our technology partners, whereas Drone Harmony potentially becomes a halfway house for data. where it gets automatically stored into the cloud, and we create API connections with photogrammetry software and AI analysis software where they can actually create webhooks and API pulls from the Drone Harmony environment for these missions, and it's actually able to process all of this automatically without people needing to push anything manually. So we are a very proactive integrator of partners. Drone Harmony tries to maintain our expertise in data acquisition, not so much data processing and things like that. So we have great partners that we work with. So you don't necessarily have to change your existing processes. So actually, David, while you've got the app open, there is a question in there around geofences and security. I didn't show that in the function. Would you be able to just sort of draw a geofence and explain how we're able to restrict where the drone goes and what it does? We've got one there. That's
absolutely. Yeah, of course. So there is a native geofence concept within the Drone Harmony system. The geofence is, in some sense, a critical part of any dock operation in the foreseen future. Just because of the nature of these automated operations, the idea is to always have a remote operation situation where we don't necessarily have a visual observer or anything like that. So having a geofence is very important for safety. In Drone Harmony, you can outline geofences. So this is an example of a geofence that you see here, me highlighting right now. Geofences can be created within the system, and basically what they do is they kind of lock everything, all the operations of the dock within that confined area. So I can show you what would happen, for example, if I took this little mission here, and it's composed of many little waypoints, and I would try to, let's say, move one of the waypoints out of the geofence. So you can quickly see how this mission is now violating the geofence. It actually tells me that immediately, and it won't let me launch this mission just because this geofence is not allowed to be violated for this specific site. If I move it just a little bit in, you see how it immediately becomes a valid mission again. So in Drone Harmony, you can create inclusion zones like this geofence. You can also create exclusion zones, so areas, no-fly zones practically, where you are not allowed to fly. And we also have actually a structure of access to these kind of features, and it's it's only available to the admins of the system to change these kind of things, just because it's such a safety critical feature. So operators and observers, which are concepts within Drone Harmony for people who just need to operate the system or just view data, view live feeds, they actually have no access to changing the geofence. So that's something that's available for the admin.
Nice. Guys, now so this webinar was set for an hour and we're about to hit that hour. I'm happy to keep on going for another 5 or 10 minutes, answer more questions, but the webinar might be closed automatically. So just a warning, we might hit the limit mark and be done. But there are just a few more questions that we could get stuck into if we don't get kicked out automatically.
Yeah, Alex, there's an interesting question talking a little bit about the future of what we intend to do with this. There's a question that's around dual monitors and multi-docks and things like that. So we have a starting philosophy where we can switch between the docks, but we are starting to see some of these really advanced use cases where people are creating hubs and operational centers with many monitors and all of those types of things. So at the moment, our software is built into a web environment, but we do intend to look at the multi-monitor type philosophy for operational centers and that point. So to answer that question, at the moment, we don't have the multi-monitor screen. You can expand it across multiple screens and operate in the same web environment. But it is something that our development team is actively working towards to be able to increase the functionality of how the Drone Harmony software supports operational centers.
Mm-hmm. I'll also add to that Something like live streams is another feature that's available through the API. So system integrators that are interested in reading the feeds, they can also do that already now.
Nice, nice. Thanks for that insight of what's to come, guys. There's actually a question from Georgios asking about flight restriction permissions. There's a few questions about flight restriction permissions. His in particular says, does the app have to get flight restriction permissions in areas where there are restrictions, or can the app bypass local restrictions? Am I correct in saying that you can have an overlay of the local flight restrictions, right, as an information tool, but the app itself won't disable you from flying in certain areas? That's the responsibility of the pilot, I believe. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, so generally speaking, yes. The flight approvals is a bigger topic for Dock in general, just because of the nature, again, of the operations. It's remote. Usually you're interested in not having a visual observer. With the visual observer, a lot is very similar to how drones work, because for the most part, if there is a visual observer and they have an opportunity to take manual control of the system, it's very similar to how operating a simple drone would be like. But with docks and with remote operations, I think the first order of business is just to get flight approvals for the site. That's something that is where Drone Harmony helps in as well, in the sense that all of the safety features that are built into Drone Harmony, as in geofences, no-fly zones, restrictions of what users can do with their different levels of access, those things are kind of a mandatory part of every such approval. They're always checked, and that's very important. Drone Harmony doesn't impose any additional restrictions other than what makes sense basically by the law and by the DJI system. So there's no additional restrictions that are added. But there's also no working around the very important aspect of just getting approval for your sites, where Drone Harmony is more than happy to assist also with. We have been through such processes now, and we know how they work both in Europe and the US, and more than happy to also give some advice on that.
Yeah. There's also a question around 24/7 operations for constant missions for things like anti-poaching. The question was, do you need Wi-Fi at all times to be able to manually take control? So the answer for that is yes. The dock has to be connected to be able to send the instructions, but it's quite flexible how you can establish that Wi-Fi. Things like Starlink, local LAN connections, and it's depending on your application. So the technology team at Drone Harmony is very, very good at helping you establish what the needs to meet your mission requirements are. And we have very, very good partners that help in deploying our solutions. So in that particular instance, if that dock was installed remotely for 24/7 operations, the scenario would probably be 2 docks to be able to have interchanging drone operations. And those two docks can share the same internet connection through a Starlink if the facility was remote, or via a LAN internet connection, or some other way to access the internet. So there's a lot of different scenarios in the way these use cases are set up, which is why we've got such a great technology team that will help you define exactly what you need.
Nice. Thanks for that, Adam. I think, like, when I said at the start of this webinar that Drone Harmony allows people to unlock the full potential of their off-the-shelf product, that's exactly the type of thing that we're talking about, right? There's all of these really like useful things that Drone Harmony allows you to do that you wouldn't think of otherwise. Now we're probably going to end the webinar very soon. There's one more question that I'd like to answer from an anonymous member. We should have mentioned this at the time. They've asked, was the latency better from David's console? The delay and lag looks difficult to work with. That's a great point. There was a bit of lag, but that's largely due to the Zoom interface. When you're connected to the drone live yourself on your own desktop, it looks a lot quicker than that. So just to repeat, that's largely because of the Zoom interface that we're holding a webinar through. Guys, I really think we're going to have to end the webinar here. There's been some great questions. There are many, many more great questions from the audience, and we've got those questions logged, so we'll get back to as many of you as possible over the next few days. If you are super anxious to ask your question, please go directly to Adam himself or Patrick. Adam is based in North America, so for everyone in North America, please go to Adam, or Europe, wherever. He speaks great English. He'll take any of your questions. And then if you're based in Europe or the rest of the world, please go to Patrick as well, our Global Business Development Manager. You can access their LinkedIn pages through these QR codes, or you can access them via email, or contact droneharmony.com, contact@droneharmony.com if you want to email us directly as a company. Apart from that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining today. This has been an incredible, incredible webinar, an incredible demonstration of a truly revolutionizing product. I can't wait to see what this thing does to industries over the next few years. So thank you, David. Thank you, Adam, for being technical experts and showing people what you can do with Drone Harmony.
A pleasure.
Our pleasure. Thanks everyone for your time.
Good stuff. Right, and we'll end the webinar here. Thank you very much for joining, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you.